is, guys. This is the Kyosho, the new Kyosho USA 1. They used to call it the Nitro Crusher back in the day. I don't know. I don't see that name on the box anywhere. But anyhow, this is the Kyosho USA 1 Nitro Crusher. That's what I'm going to call it. Monster truck. I think they're just calling this the GP version. There's an EP and a GP, electric power, gas power. This is the USA 1 GP Nitro Crusher. It's a 1/8 scale RC 0.25 engine powered 4-wheel drive monster truck. This is the re-release of, I don't know if you call it a re-release or just a new model, but because it's completely different than what they released previously. But Kyosho did make the USA 1 previously in the 90s. And they've recently got the licensing permission from USA 1, which is a real world monster truck, to re-release this truck. And they've done it, and they've done an awesome job. As mentioned, they have an EP and a GP. I'm not interested in the electric one at all, but I got the Nitro one. Matter of fact, I got 2 of them. The reason I got 2 of them is simply because I think this is going to be a rare truck. I think they're going to sell out. And then I don't know how long they're going to produce it for. So I went ahead and got one I can play with and one that I can keep sealed on the shelf for, later generations or whatever. Maybe it'll be worth some money later. Who knows? Either way, it'll get added to the collection. So we're going to do an unboxing here. Let's not waste any time. Let's open this thing up and see what it's all about. Let's get right into it. All right away, this is what we're dealing with inside the box. This is how the truck's going to come. This one technically has been opened before. The hobby town I bought this from, they got 2 of them, and now I've got them. One of them they opened up and they were using it as a shelf display, and then the other one I special ordered, so it had my name on it. And when I got there, I told them, I said, I want both of them. So they only had this one on display for like 12 hours or something. Most of that time was overnight. So not very many people have touched this or seen this truck other than the employees, who were jealous that I was taking it away from them, but it is what it is. Like I said, let's get it opened up. Let's pull out this cardboard. And let's get this beast out of the box. Take out the other stuff that it comes with. And I'm going to set the box aside. All right, guys, here it is. This is an awesome truck. First of all, the detail on the body is wicked cool. It comes out of the box like this, pre-painted, pre-stickered, almost ready to go. You can see all the detail on the hood with the 3 carburetors and 3 air filters up top there sticking out. Awesome looking Chevy front end, early 90s Chevy front end. Some great detail on the graphics. Got an NRA sticker on there. We got One Nation Under God and let's keep it that way. Hell yeah, brother. Pray for our troops, VP Racing, and America needs the spirit of Christ. Ain't that the truth? On the back end, again, early 90s Chevy rear end tailgate. Just looking real good. Really good looking truck. And of course you saw the chrome pipe on the side I was just holding up. Chrome pipe sticking out, which is awesome. And the flat black tonneau cover on the bed, looking really good. Looking really, really good. Let's pop the body clips. And I will say there is a KC light bar that goes on top of the roll bar back here. I'm pretty positive that's in this box here. Pop it open. There's a look at the underside of the body. One thing to note is this body is prepped for light buckets. These are really nice detailed headlights that are ready to accept light buckets. Looks like 4 LEDs. Those look like 3mm LEDs in all 4 buckets. And then same thing on the taillights. They've got one LED, 3mm LED pocket on each side of the taillight also. Looking really good. And these taillights are going to look good too. So what they've done is the area underneath the taillight sticker is unpainted. And then the taillight light bucket is placed over that area. So the light is basically going to be admitted through the sticker and look like a real tail light. I've done a lot of my other bodies that way and it ends up looking really good. And then the fronts are just, standard clear plastic headlights, so they'll look like real headlights also. I just can't say enough about this body. It looks so good. These are rubber mirror mounts, so I wouldn't worry too much about like rolling it over and breaking the mirrors off right away. They're rubber, they're gonna be there for a while. They'll give really, really good looking body. I just think that's awesome. And then here's the truck. Those carburetors are mounted to the front body post, so they stay in place, which is kind of cool. Plastic front bumper, and then also this is a plastic mount for the front bumper that screws to the chassis. A pretty good size, or at least it looks like pretty good size radio box, which houses the receiver and the 4 AA battery pack that this truck comes with. It's looking like we got a 125cc fuel tank, pretty average for 8 scale. Standard size on buggies, truggies, pretty much anything 8 scale standard size. This is the new Kyosho, what are they calling this? The KE25 SP2. So this is the second version of this engine. I honestly have no experience with this engine, or actually Kyosho period. This is the first Kyosho I've ever owned. I've primarily been an Associated guy my whole life, and all I've really owned is Associated Traxxas, and I have 1 HPI. So that's kind of my experience with Kyosho. This is it right here. 3-speed transmission. It's a 3-speed auto, and it is chain driven. I don't know if you can see that. You will see it better a little bit on the underside, but that 3-speed clutch assembly drives a chain drive, which goes down to like a splitter case or a drop box, just like it would be on a real monster truck. Really nice looking tuned chrome pipe with a nice chrome header. Looks like maybe I don't know, a 90mm header or something like that. Pretty similar to what we're running on the race cars on the 1/8 scale stuff. The servo for throttle looks pretty standard. It's they're calling it a Perfex, P-E-R-F-E-X, KS5031-09MW, and I'm quite positive that's going to be the same steering servo as well. Here's a look at the other side for you guys. Really good looking truck. One thing I will note is when these come out of the box, the suspension's actually zip tied down like this. They've got 2 zip ties on the front and back of the chassis. Obviously, Hobbytown, when they opened this one to display it, they cut those off already. So that way everybody could do this on the shelf, because every time I've ever seen anybody touch an RC car, that's the first thing they want to do is feel the suspension. And yeah, does it work? Oh my gosh, it feels smooth. That's the first thing everybody wants to do. So I actually worked at Hobbytown when I was like 15, and I couldn't tell you how many times we'd put like a T-Max or something on the shelf or on the counter, and somebody would come in and that would be the first thing they do is just feel the suspension. So it gives I don't know, satisfies us, I guess. Get a closer look at the carburetor. Looks like they've got some foam shoved in there just so nothing gets in there during shipping or packing. This is a pull start engine. I'm not going to pull it because it's never been started. There's never been fuel in it. There's no oil, nothing. That's another thing I see people do in hobby shops. They'll see a pull start engine and just start pulling on it. That's the worst thing you can do to an engine. And we are going to be breaking this in too. I'm going to be firing this thing up here shortly. We're going to add fuel to the tank, and we're going to fire this thing up and let it idle. We'll go through the break-in procedure anyway. Getting a look underneath the truck. Oh, and on the back here, we've got a sweet wheelie bar. So with the 3-speed, I'm anticipating that in low gear, in first gear, this thing's going to pull some wheelies, and I'm stoked for that. I've already seen a video of the electric one running, and the electric one will flip itself back over. Like, it's crazy fast, but the electric one doesn't have a 3-speed. This is way cooler, way cooler. So let's get a look at the underside of the chassis. So this is a 4-link suspension setup. 4 links rear, 4 links front, just like a real monster truck. Solid axles. Here's that drop box I was talking about, or the chain box, if you want to call it that. Again, very similar to a real monster truck setup, where the drop box comes off the transmission and then powers the front and rear axles. Very cool setup on that. And you can see the steering setup. So the steering servo is up here. And again, that is the same steering servo that I mentioned that's used for the throttle as well. So we've got a linkage back here to this cantilever arm that then comes up to the front axle and goes to both tires. And one thing you will note is on the rear hubs here, those are the same rear hubs that are on the front. So this truck's basically set up for rear steering. I believe Kyosho is going to sell a kit, if they're not already, that makes it super easy to convert this thing to rear steering. It adds this bracket to the rear axle, and then there's links that you can see delete these little links right here that then allow the hubs to turn, and then you've got 4-wheel steering on this truck. Probably something I'm going to do, because this is the one I'm going to bash. As I mentioned, I'm keeping the other one fresh, sealed, new in the box, because I think it's going to be worth something, but this one's going to get used, no doubt about it. Other than that, down here, everything looks pretty standard. Looks like the front drive shaft is a slip joint, or universal, if you will. And that's pretty much it down here. It's pretty basic stuff. These tires are looking awesome. These white wheels, these white dish wheels with these Chevron monster truck tires, looking great. The rubber feels really, really soft. Here's another thing that everybody does in the hobby shop is gotta squeeze the tires. Gotta squeeze the tires. The tires are feeling really, really soft. They do have foam inserts in them. The original USA one, I'm pretty sure, was like hard rubber with no inserts at all, and it bounced a lot. No traction. These are gonna work really well. They're probably gonna wear out if you drive them on asphalt a bunch, but they're gonna work really good. That's all there is to it. They feel great. Again, the suspension movement. One thing this truck is going to be a lot different on than like a T-Max or a Revo or something like that is the suspension. T-Max Revos, they've got independent 4-corner suspension. This is a solid axle monster truck with 4 links. It's going to drive and bounce and act just like a real monster truck, or at least the monster trucks from the 90s that I grew up watching. So in other words, when you drop this truck or when it lands, it's gonna kind of bounce a little bit like that. The suspension really is more than anything just to soak up the weight of the chassis onto the axles. The tires are gonna do most of the work as far as soaking up the weight and the hits from coming off a jump. So that's one thing that people may be unfamiliar with when they get this, is they might think it might drive like a T-Max or something like that. It's not at all. It's going to drive like a monster truck, like a real monster truck. And I think that's awesome. It brings a lot of scale realism to the truck, just like the body does. And I think that's awesome. It's going to really make you feel like you're driving a true monster truck, which is part of the fun for me anyway. I mean, that's about it as far as the chassis goes. It's a pretty simple setup. Twin vertical plate chassis, technically. TVP chassis, again, just like a real monster truck. Really, really awesome. These are 17 millimeter wheels, 17 millimeter hubs and hexes. They are Kyosho branded tires, and they are glued. They are pre-glued. So this thing's ready to rock. It comes out of the box just like this as we saw, and it's ready to run version. All the electronics and radios, everything is installed, bound, ready to go. Literally all I gotta do is add 4 batteries to the receiver battery pack, 4 batteries to the controller, add some fuel, hit it with a glow igniter. This thing's gonna be up and ripping, which is great. So let's pop open this receiver box. There's one body clip here that pops this guy open. Let's just take a look inside, because one thing to note is probably before I run this truck, I'm going to be putting in my Futaba receiver so I can use it on my Futaba radio. I don't like the ready to run stuff at all. As far as the radios go, they just feel cheap and makes me nervous. Like I always think it's going to run away on me or something. So I'm definitely going to be putting my Futaba gear in this. That's just what I'm used to. It's what I like the feel of. So inside our receiver box, you can see we've got some foam padding and our 4-cell AA battery pack. And then on the side of the receiver box is our on-off switch, which is in a rubber casing. So I wouldn't say that these electronics are waterproof, especially the servos, by any means, but it looks like we've got a pretty decently water resistant battery receiver box here. So if you wanted to change the servos, which I probably will do on this one, then you can probably run this truck through some water for sure. And I know that the air filter they included, which we'll get to in a second, has a water splash shield on it too. So removing the 4-cell, standard, we've seen these things for years. Standard 4-cell AA battery pack, and that's nice. Boom, look at that. They've got it on a pigtail extension for us. So right away we're ready to throw in a lipo hump pack, which I imagine is what will probably fit best into this box here. And that's again something that I personally like to do. These four AA packs, they work okay. You can probably safely run like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 tanks through this truck before you need to start worrying about these batteries. But it's so much easier to just charge a little lipo receiver pack, throw it in there, charge it up every time you go to drive, and you're totally good. You have no worries. That's definitely what I'll be doing. And looks like they've got the receiver wrapped in some foam rubber in here. I'm going to go ahead and take that foam rubber out and take a look at the receiver. It is a Synchro Kyosho KR331 3-channel receiver. Of course, this truck is only 2 channels, so only 2 channels are being used. But it is a 3-channel radio and 3-channel receiver that they're including with this truck, which is pretty cool. So obviously the 3rd channel may be used for rear wheel steering, depending on how you set it up. But the way that Kyosho has got the linkage for the steering underneath, I believe it's all going to be on the same channel. Both servos are probably going to come off a Y splitter, and they'll both be off of the same channel. And so you'll have rear steering all the time. At least that's the way it looks like Kyosho wants you to do it. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty positive the 3rd channel won't be used on this truck, even with rear steering. So with the receiver out of the way, you can see that it is a pretty decently sized battery box. There's definitely room for a receiver and a lipo hump pack in there. Definitely a hump pack. It won't be a flat pack or anything. There's not room for that. I'm going to leave the 4-way out because, again, I'm going to be changing that anyhow. And I'll go ahead and throw this body clip back in here, which is a really tight fit. We'll do that later. I'm going to be changing out that receiver anyway. And before you guys see the video of this thing running, I'll have all those electronics, my Futaba stuff anyway, put in here. I'll leave the servos for now. But to do the break-in, I will for sure have my Futaba stuff in here. And I'll go over the break-in procedure once I start that. So that's the meat and potatoes of it. This is the truck. You've seen the body, you saw the chassis layout. Let's take a look at what else is included. I mean, what a mean looking truck. And one thing I was going to touch on when I was talking about the suspension was articulation. This truck actually does kind of articulate fairly decently. I mean, that's almost a soda can there, So as far as articulation goes, it's actually pretty decent. But again, this is made to drive and handle and act just like a real world monster truck. So don't expect it to soak up huge, massive jumps at the skate park. So let's set the truck right here, and let's take a look at what else is included. This is going to be all your instructions, owner's manual, everything. So we've got the full owner's manual here. Looks like there's a couple separate books. This one, I believe, is going to be the operation manual, and it is. It goes through the operation of the controller, how to put the body on and off, how to set the steering trim and endpoints. It does go through some engine operation, air filter installation, basically just an operation manual. This is the good manual right here. This is actually the maintenance manual or assembly manual, which even has an exploded view of the engine on the back with part numbers, which is nice. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of good Pull-Start 21 engines around these days. Pretty much all the Pull-Start engines are going to be the ready to run stuff. But like if you can get your hands on like an OSRG from back in the day, those are good, awesome engines, and I think that's what I may end up doing on this one, but we'll see how good this Kyosho engine runs. So this is a full assembly manual. It goes over everything from building the truck from scratch, just like any other assembly manual. Again, this is the first time I've ever had a Kyosho, so it's the first time I'm laying eyes on a Kyosho assembly manual, but I can tell you it looks pretty thorough. There's a lot of Chinese in here, but it looks like it's all laid out pretty well, and anybody could assemble this truck if they wanted to. There's a full exploded view, which looks a little overwhelming, honestly. They maybe could have broke it up into front and rear, although maybe not. I mean, the way this chassis is built, they probably couldn't break it up to front and rear, but maybe they could just do the chassis assembly, the drivetrain assembly. But anyway, that's an exploded view that looks a little overwhelming. And they even have body assembly instructions in here for all the body stuff. So pretty thorough documentation that comes with this truck. Looks like we've got a small sticker sheet. This is going to be the stickers for the lights that go on top of the body. And it looks like on the box it says USA 1. It doesn't use the KC lights. So I'll probably be using these USA 1 stickers on mine. And the last couple things in here, we got a bind plug for the receiver in case you ever need to do that. And then this is, let's see here, supplementary instruction sheet for page 43 and page 38 in the manual. So there's obviously an error in the manual that they've included a supplemental sheet for to correct that. It just looks like, basically it looks like they have a ball end pictured into one of the rod end assemblies versus like a collar that presses in there. It looks pretty minor. But anyway, there's that. Let's crack open this box here. This is the box that's going to contain all the other accessories this truck comes with. So here's the controller. Again, this is a Kyosho Synchro KT231P Plus. It's a 2.4 gigahertz FHSS system. High response digital proportional system. Again, this is a 3-channel system. Looks like this is your 3rd channel on the thumb right here. 3-position switch. And then up top here, you've got throttle trim, throttle EPA, steering trim, steering dual rate, and then of course the throttle reversing, steering reversing, and I'm sure there's some other functions probably built into this. But again, I'm probably not going to use this controller. Matter of fact, I can just tell you right now, I'm not going to use this. This will stay brand new. I will say, you see how the steering is kind of crooked on it? The wheel is. I've never driven with a radio like that. It's kind of different. But I will say it does kind of feel comfortable in your hand. The throttle trigger is extremely soft, like very, very soft. And the brake is like really stiff, which is interesting. But that's the radio. There is something else in this bag. Yes, these are our KC lights. These are the KC lights that will screw onto the top of our roll bar right here. And that's gonna look awesome with these stickers on them. And one cool thing to note, check it out. We've got, again, LED pods, and these look like bigger LEDs, like maybe 4mm LED pods. So I'm pretty sure Kyosho is going to or is already selling a light kit for this truck that's gonna have all of the LEDs for the headlights, taillights, and your light bar. And that's probably gonna look awesome. I'm probably gonna get that when it's available. And lastly in the box, we've got our engine goodies bag. So in here, we're gonna have the air filter, which again, I mentioned this is a water shielded air filter. So probably fairly restrictive, but otherwise it looks like a fairly standard 1/8 scale air filter. It does look like it's a single stage foam in there. To be honest, I'll probably end up running one of the Traxxas filters on these. Those Traxxas filters are just awesome for, you know, bashing type stuff. They last forever, and they're just good filters. I don't know, I may run this maybe for break-in or something, but as far as actual use goes, probably end up putting a Traxxas filter on this thing. Which I do have. I think I've got a few of them hanging on the shelf over there. Let's see, we got a 4-way wrench with looks like a 5.5, an 8mm, a 7mm, and a 10mm. Looks like a fairly handy 4-way wrench. And they're also giving us a 17mm wrench, which is pretty nice. That's obviously going to be for your wheel nuts. So that's cool they include that. Other than that, looks like, so this I saw in the featured details online. This is what they're calling an engine break-in ring. Basically, it's a carburetor restrictor. So you're in the instructions, I'm sure it tells you to install this in the carburetor and then put the air filter on. That way your carburetor is restricted and you cannot give this thing full throttle, or you can and it just won't act like it's getting full throttle. So they want you to have this in there for break-in. Again, probably just for, you know, newbies, people who are pretty new to the hobby who don't really know how to break in one of these engines. But that's cool that they do that and they include it. And then we've got a small bag of some hex keys, probably common sizes, 2, 3, 4mm, possibly a 5. No, not a 5. 2, 3, 4, and maybe 2.5. But anyhow, there's 4 little hex wrenches in there. And that's it. That's empty, and that's empty. So that's everything that's included in this package. It's an awesome truck. I cannot wait to start driving it. It's going to be so much fun. Electronics installed, ready to go. I mean, it's hard to get much more ready to go than this right out of the box. Literally, all you need to add is fuel, some batteries, and you're on your way. So I'm really stoked that Kyosho has brought back this truck. These bodies are, well, not these ones in particular, especially the original ones. The original ones actually had a hard polycarbonate body, whereas this is, you know, Lexan body. But I will say this is some pretty thick Lexan. It seems like a pretty quality body. But the original bodies were very sought after, especially for, you know, restorations on old trucks, on old USA ones, and even the crawler scene. I know the crawler guys were kind of looking after these original bodies for crawler trucks too. But beautiful body. They did a great job recreating it. Looks like mine's got a little scuff right there, but that's all right. This one's getting bashed. And it looks like this mirror's a little loose. Those looks like they're held on with, yeah, those are held on with just a clip and an O-ring. So I would expect those to rotate a little bit and not screwed on or anything. But yeah, Kyosho did a heck of a job. They brought back a beautiful truck. It's licensed, it's detailed, the chassis seems great. It's going to be a really fun truck to drive. It's going to be a fun truck to dash, and just, it's going to bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. So, and again, as I mentioned, I've got a second truck over here. This truck is sealed in the box. It's not going to get opened. It's going to go up on the shelf with my new in-box T-Max up there. That is an original 1999 T-Max from release, that's also still new in the box. It's going to go up there on the shelf with that truck, and it's never going to get opened. It's just going to look really good sitting up there and collecting dust. Probably irritates the crap out of a bunch of you guys, but hey, this is my collection, so it's what makes me happy, right? And that's what RC is all about. RC is all about having fun, whatever makes you happy. So without any further delay, guys, I'm going to kind of clean this stuff up here, and then I'll fire up the camera and bring you back when we're ready to do some break-in on this engine. So let's get at it.